6 o'clock. Good evening. I would like to call the order for the meeting for November 1st, and we are going to the closed session.
Yeah, are there any cards for closed session? Okay.
Okay, so.
Yeah, and our intention is to be back at 6:15 sharp. And,
So do we do the flags before we go to closed session?
No, we have the students doing it for us.
Students doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So 6 o'clock, we adjourn for closed session.
Then we'll be right back.
So Peter will work on
I can just.
By the time they thought about calling me out
That's true.
Okay, okay. 6:18. We reconvening from the closed session. The report.
Hold on one sec.
We reconvening from the closed session. The report from closed session. The board approved with 4-1 vote. 4-0 vote with McClellan's absent. For the settlement agreement for students 110118A. So next,
And nothing else to report.
there is nothing else to report. So welcome the staffs, the fellow board members, Dr. Baker, and the audience. Thank you for being here. We will begin the meeting with the flag salute.
Do we have a student who can help us with this?
today? The student will lead the flag salute. Please stand.
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's a teacher voice right there.
Okay, the next is the board agenda approval. I would like to switch the order for item 7, public comments, and item 6, consent item. Okay, so can I have a motion?
To approve the update agenda. I move. Second.
So Phyllis moves, Anjali seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0 vote with.
You don't have to say
Okay.
anything
Okay. The next item is a 4.3 classified employee of the month. For over 26 years, CUSD has celebrated our dedicated classified student staff through the Employee of the Month program. I would like to hand it over to Stacy.
Thank you. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce tonight's Classified Employee of the Month, Miss Courtney Keller. If you could come forward to the podium. Courtney is our HR analyst, and she was actually nominated by our two HR directors, Doug Bond and Adolfo Laguna, who are here giving up a little bit of their football game tonight. Here's what Doug and Adolfo have to say about Courtney and her stellar accomplishments. Courtney, without fail, is a friendly and welcoming face of human resources. She is often the first contact for prospective certificated employees, reaching out to them to schedule interviews and answer any questions they might have. Once offers are made, she works with each employee individually to make sure that the onboarding process runs smoothly. Often, Courtney assists new hires as they navigate through our credentialing system. As our supervisors, we hear many, that's underlined, bolded, positive comments on how much Courtney has helped employees through the hiring process. She values our new employees, and it shows through her words and actions. In addition to new hires, Courtney works with both certificated and classified staff to process professional growth activities and does so with clarity, patience, and warmth. She is a go-between for HR and induction, playing a vital role not only in making sure those eligible for services are included, but also serving on the induction serving committee. With Courtney's can-do attitude, warmth, collaboration, and dedication to duty, she has become an integral member of the HR team and is highly valued by her colleagues and the district as a whole. For these reasons, we respectfully request that Courtney be acknowledged as the district's Classified Employee of the Month. In addition, I would like to add and thank and recognize Courtney for all the day-to-day tasks that she does. She covers things, makes them run smoothly, and takes care of things that we don't even know that she's taking care of that make our life easier. She problem solves with employees, families, and communities, and she supports all departments with her expertise and knowledge of CUSD. All of this with a smile and a never-ending positive attitude. Thank you, Courtney. So at this time, if we have anyone who would like to come up and speak on behalf of Courtney's attributes.
Good evening. As you can see, Adolfo and I don't agree on everything. One thing we really do agree on is that Courtney's really deserving of this honor. Courtney is a product of Cupertino. She attended the old college school where the motto was, is a fun fact, you're good. That was the motto. She then went to Cupertino High School and then UC Santa Cruz. She's also a legacy. Her mom never served in HR for many years, so we're delighted to have this gem to come up and work with us. Courtney came to us after working with special education and with family engagement. And her former supervisor, Leslie Maines, is at another meeting tonight, but she wanted to express her congratulations to you. And so Courtney is bright, ambitious, collaborative, lifelong learner, and every day she's trying to find ways to make our department more efficient and even more welcoming. So congratulations. Very proud of you.
And I definitely want to reiterate everything that's been said. But you know, human resources is about recruiting, growing personnel, and it's competitive. I mean, we're competing with so many districts in this area. The fact that Courtney makes the first contact with employees goes a long way because she's so warm and just very positive and doing the way she interacts with people is like it's amazing. So people then come to us like, I want to work there. You know, you can tell she likes working there, and you can tell, and so that goes a long way. Also, like Doug mentioned accolades about her schooling. It's great to have someone come up, from our schools and be successful. It's just super smart. It's the tracking of credentials and all requirements is no easy task. We just went to the conference not too long ago where all the state, credential analysts get together once a year to make sure we're up to date with information. And they had this game, it's kind of like trivia. Courtney couldn't make it, but myself and Will was on the other co-workers as well. They're like, where's Courtney when you need her? Like, we're one day. Like, she knows all this. Like, see? You don't know? It's see? But I did we got to go where I'm going to say. So, we're just honored to have her as one of our employees. So, congratulations.
Is there anyone you would like to introduce? Any family, Courtney? And then you can speak. I know you had a 5-page speech prepared because you love having all this spotlight on you.
Yeah, I'm not really good at being in front of people. I'm much better over the phone. But my family was all able to come today. My parents are both here, my 2 girls, and then my husband. Yeah, so just thank you to Doug, Nancy, and Stacy. I could not do anything I do without the support of my HR team. I feel so lucky to work in a place where I'm supported and collaboration is encouraged, and I feel valued and appreciated every day when I come to work. I don't take that for granted, and I want to work hard for you guys. It's also important to me to give back to the place where I came from. You know, Cupertino was a great place to grow up. I want to give back to that, make sure we can continue to get, you know, the best people here. Hopefully we make them feel as valued as I feel every day. And thank you guys once again. Okay, that is all.
Before you go, we do have a gift from the board and pictures. Do you guys usually do picture?
I want to make a comment before we move on. Courtney, I just want to thank you because not only do you do a wonderful job in HR, but you're very patient with board members who ask very stupid questions sometimes. And not so much since you've been in HR, but when you were in community engagement, I had lots of opportunities to call you, and you were always friendly, even though sometimes the questions were stupid. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's good.
Thank you, Courtney.
So the next item is a 4.4, the Meyer Holt's presentation.
Let Lynn take it over.
I'm tall enough.
So I wanted to start by telling you a little bit about our journey at Meyer Holtz with Writers Workshop. Oops. Cool. There we go. Oh no. So in 2014 and 15, Meyer Holtz began our implementation of Writers Workshop. We also began our partnership with Columbia University Teachers College, which we still maintain today. In 2015 all the way through 2017, we began focusing on our small group work, our one-on-one combined, and also started to step into personalized learning for our students through high-quality instruction. Last year, we began to focus on the connection that Readers and Writers Workshop really naturally ties
through those, teachers can see where student needs are. Pre-assessments give teachers the ability to organize small groups based on their classroom or based on student data. And again, that really enables the teacher to personalize and tailor the small group work and one-on-one conferring specifically towards those needs. And at the end of the unit, a post-assessment is given to students where the teacher can reflect and the students can reflect on the growth they've made in the unit. So those are some of the tools that the teacher uses, but students also have tools of their own. And in their Writers Workshop folders, they have things like checklists, which are really key for
And students use these throughout their writing process. They help to guide where students are going to work on next in their writing. Student checklists are another sort of kid-friendly version of the learning progression. And from these two tools, students are able to make goals for their own writing, so that they each have a plan on what they are going to be working on next and focusing on. So, oops, oh no, there we go. So tonight I'm going to invite 3 of my friends, Meyerholtz friends, who are going to talk a little bit about their writing that they've brought to share with us in Writers Workshop. And we'll be looking at what the students feel themselves, or how they identify as a writer, where they're going to go as a writer, and strategies that are going to help them achieve their goals that they've set. So our first student is Coco, and Coco is a 2nd grader here at Meyerholtz. And this is an example of Coco's writing. I'll let you take a look at it for just a moment while I unstick from this cord. And Coco, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about where you are as a writer right now, some things that you're doing in your writing currently. So what are some things that you're doing?
I was using strong words such as creak, crack, surprise to help the reader envision the story. Powerful words to help the reader imagine what the dinosaur egg looked like when it hatched. And working on dialogue, I used words that help the reader picture what the characters are saying and how they're saying it, which means giving their own voice. As you can see, you can see my dad said with the wine, so that's how I said how my dad was saying it.
And then where are you going as a writer?
I need to add more detail and elaboration to my writing.
And how are you going to do that? What are you going to do next?
I will zoom in some more of the tiny details, like what my dad did when he was going to see the dinosaur, and also what other things he was like when he reacted by seeing the dinosaur. And I added is that it's because my dad didn't know what it was, so my dad thought it was a dog.
Wonderful. Are you going to add anything else that might help your writing, or use any other strategies?
Yeah.
Obviously. Maybe this one.
I also will help the reader picture what the dinosaur's horn on the snout looks like. It was like curved, bumpy, and quite pointy when it comes to the curved edge on the top of the horn.
Nice. Thanks, Coco, for sharing your writing. Okay, and next I have my friend, Miss Leia, who's going to share a piece of her writing. Come on up, Miss Leia. Oops, one more. There it is. Okay. And Leia, what are you doing as a writer right now? Who are you as a writer? Oops.
I use a lot of elaboration, and I'm not giving the reader a bird's eye view. Instead, I'm letting them stand there and looking at it as though they are actually there. In my ending, I used a lot of feelings and I used a lot of thoughts, and it helped bring my story to a close and tie all the questions together.
And where are you going next as a writer?
I want to make my lead stronger, because in my beginning it's just like a twig cracking. I want to make it I want it to be more interesting.
And what are some of the strategies or some of the tools that you're going to use or utilize to help you achieve that goal?
I'm going to use more tension, so I can set a mysterious mood and no one knows what is going to happen until it happens. I discovered this technique when I was using Reader's Workshop, and I like how you don't know something, but then you read that one word and it just appears and happens. And I applied what I like about reading suspenseful text to my own writing.
Wow, that's great.
Miss Sung and Miss Stewart taught our class to use the show instead of tell strategy, so our reader can picture and experience it instead of just listening to it. Miss Stewart taught me how to use what I noticed in James and the Giant Peach and apply those moves to my own writing.
Wow, thank you, Leah. All right, and Miss Rihanna is coming up next. Okay, Rihanna, where are you as a writer? How do you see yourself as a writer right now?
I think that I use descriptive words pretty well, and the reader can really picture what I was feeling and what emotions were going through me. And they can also picture the mood of the story.
And where are you going? What are you working on as a writer right now?
I want to add more description of the features of the characters, so more description of how the characters were feeling at the exact moment and how they look like and what they were doing.
And do you have any strategies or tools that are going to help you do that?
My teacher, Miss Stable, she taught me how to insert inner thoughts and dialogue in an appropriate place. And in my writing, I wrote down a piece of dialogue and I moved it around until it fit in the correct position and helped the reader picture it the best.
Awesome. Thank you, Rihanna. And Miss Staples here tonight. She's super proud. Thanks, Rihanna. Okay. So in addition to all of our students, not just these 3 students, but all of our students have these goals that they're working towards that really personalize their next steps as writers. Our students really view themselves as writers. They feel that they're authors and illustrators. They're able to write about topics that are interesting to them and that they're passionate about. They have this great toolbox of strategies that they're learning from their teachers, and they're able to apply that to their own work. And they've really shown a really great growth between their pre-assessment and their post. And actually looking at our data, I'm very proud because really all of our students at Meyerholtz, and that's including our language learners, our special needs students, students with learning differences, 96% of our students have made growth between their pre-assessment and their post. So that's phenomenal. That's really great to hear. And only 4% of our students have either slipped or stayed exactly where they were. That's only 4% between their pre and their post assessment. And really a lot of the success is attributed to having students be able to have a choice in their writing, writing on a daily basis for a long time, being able to have instructors who teach them specific strategies and skills that they can apply to their own writing, and then having their writing and instruction be personalized to fit them as a young author. So, any questions that I can answer? I would love to do my best.
Thank you. Thank you for coming here. It's so nice to hear from the students, and it's great to see the success that this is bringing. Thank you.
How many years do you guys have been doing the writers workshop? How about readers workshop?
This is our 5th year doing writers workshop and also partnering with Columbia University Teachers College. Last year, many teachers began work in readers workshop, and this year our entire staff, CLIP and Neighborhood and SPED, are all doing readers workshop and have a balanced literacy approach to just literacy in general.
What the Columbia University provides you in terms of service?
So we have year-long professional development with trainers from Columbia. They come out and visit our specific school sites. This year and in years past, we've been partnering with Blue Hills. So this year, training happens at Blue Hills, and our teachers with Blue Hills teachers travel there to their school site, and their instructors host lab classrooms where the Teachers College trainer is demoing lessons in front of actual Blue Hills students, and all of our teachers are learning from them. And then after each of those sessions, there's professional development on reading, writing, balanced literacy strategies. And we meet twice throughout the year, a 2-day period and a 3-day period. And then myself as a principal, I have all, access to their support at an email's moment away. So it's invaluable. It's really the best professional development that we can offer our students in literacy. And I'm really proud to be able to offer that to our teachers at Meyerholtz. So.
Just thank you for coming. One of the best parts of our board meetings is hearing students share about their learning. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, and also very appreciate the 3 students for sharing their piece of writing. I have the certificate for the students, so can you come back, and then we have a picture with them. So
Just take to the ground.
Not really. Just take it off. Just take the hair off. It's just gonna happen over here. Can I just get rid of it?
Work with Chinese.
Okay?
yes. Okay. Okay. So the next is employee communication. Do we have any? I don't think so. I didn't see any. Okay. Next is public comment. We have one. So you got 3 minutes. Will, please come up.
I've had a ton of conversations over the last couple of months, and I've talked to elected officials up and down the range. What surprised me is this overwhelming theme that school board trustee is possibly one of the hardest positions to hold. And with a couple of our members currently departing, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you so much for your time, your service. This is not easy. And I wanted to send you off with some love. So thank you, Anjali. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, so next item is item 6, consent item. Can I have a motion?
I move 6.1 through 6.6.
Second?
Anjali moves, Phyllis seconds. All in favor say
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, so the next item is 8.1, Human Growth and Development Update. Allison?
Faster at this part. Okay. We're almost, here we go. Okay, so thank you. This evening I wanted to share with you our process and timeline for moving towards selection of our Human Growth and Development curriculum for grade 5, and also hear your feedback on our plans for community engagement and also your engagement along the way. This topic was determined last spring that this would be a priority for the district this year. And so before we begin the process, I wanted to give you a chance to hear how we're planning to lay that out over the course of the year and see if you had any input. So we'll briefly touch on the CHIA requirements for grade 5, and then we'll dig into the process and the calendar and talk about the engagement plans, and then give you a chance to discuss and share your input. So I won't read through all of this since we attached, all of the details around CHIA, and I know that you've probably heard a little bit about it as part of the 7th grade work last year. I think the key piece here is that we are required to provide students with integrated, comprehensive, accurate, and unbiased sexual health and HIV prevention education in middle school, and we may also include it as part of the elementary school years. So when we choose to do that, we're updating our curriculum in that area and needing to comply with the new CHIA compliance requirements. And the document that I attached gave some details about what those requirements are. And I won't read through all of these things, but I'll just highlight that, of course, we want to be considering age appropriateness and ensuring that we're offering the kids medically accurate, objective information, making sure that we're aligned with the CHIA requirements and that we're considering all of our students as we're selecting those materials. We're also thinking about making sure that what we're providing is inclusive, and this is really aligned with many of the other policies that we already have in place here in the district. And in addition to kind of the puberty pieces that are a part of this, there's also information that the kids are required to get in terms of communication skills and healthy relationships. And making sure that we're providing them with materials that are free of bias. So we're at the very beginning part of this process in laying out a tentative timeline. And I'm sharing this with you tonight, and then as soon as we're ready to go, the next step would be to reach out to our parents and guardians and our teachers to let them know our plan for the year, and also ask for input. I know that we want to be very proactive about what we're looking at, what the requirements are, and right at the beginning of the process, invite stakeholders to share comments that they'd like our team to consider as we're beginning the process. And then we would move into a phase of looking at the different curriculum that are available for review. And we would be bringing a lens to that work that would help us kind of select those pieces to look at. So we would be looking at curriculum that meets the CHIA requirements, of course, is appropriate for 5th grade, that we could provide local training and support for our teachers for, and also that would complement what has already been adopted for 7th grade in the district. So we would be in that review stage and also looking at that initial input from teachers and also parents, things that they would want the task force to consider. And then we would be in the February-March timeframe giving parents and guardians a chance to actually take a look at the materials that the team is reviewing, guided viewing, so that if they had questions, there'd be somebody there to answer them and help facilitate that process. And as part of that, also, we would provide a way for parents to offer feedback as they're looking at the curriculum, so that the task force could have that additional opportunity to hear from parents along the way. And during that time, the task force would also be thinking about their review of the curriculum, thinking about the stakeholder feedback to date, and then making a determination about which of the curriculum options should be piloted in classrooms this spring. At that point, also, we would be coming back to you. So each time we have a star there, it means that we would be intending to come back to give you an update. So we would be, at that point, giving you an update on what we collected from our stakeholders, both the teachers, the task force, and our parent feedback, and share with you our recommendation for piloting and why we're making that recommendation. And at that point, too, we'd also be bringing you more information and giving you an opportunity to actually take a look at the curriculum that we're recommending for pilot. And then before we move into the actual piloting stage, we're required to ensure that all teachers are trained. If they're going to be using it, they need to be trained, and parents need to have information before any teaching happens in the classroom, even during piloting. So that would be that next phase, is ensuring teachers were trained, and parents and guardians are invited to attend information sessions, so that everybody knows what the material is before the students would be receiving it in classrooms. I don't know how many we would select. I'm working with our trainer right now to see, which curriculum we would bring to the task force based on that criteria of that I mentioned before about providing the local training and making sure it's 5th grade appropriate. But we know that we'll probably be in the range of 3 or 4 to start, and then we would narrow down, knowing that, whenever possible, we want to try out more than one so that we can be making the best decision possible for our kids. So then we would be coming back to you and sharing the feedback on how that pilot worked and what our teachers are saying, what kids are saying, and what parents are saying about how that went. And I hope that we might be able to get to a decision, by the end of the year in preparation for next year, so we would know our plan. But if we got to that place and it didn't seem like we were ready, then we would stretch out this timeline. We're trying to, go at it with that mindset that we could probably get there. But of course, if we need more time or need more engagement, then we would adjust. So this is just a little more detail and kind of a summary of the community engagement and board engagement opportunities. So we would start out, as soon as we finalize our plan, we would start out with that information email and invitation to join the task force, and also that opportunity to share any thoughts that people would like the task force to consider as we begin our work. Then we would be in that phase of giving people an opportunity to review all of the options that we're looking at and provide feedback prior to the decision about which materials to pilot. Then we would be in that education information session phase in March, and then in May, feedback on the pilot. In terms of the task force, of course, we need to have teachers as the majority so that we're getting that sense of what would be the right fit for 5th grade. We also want to include some parents, prioritizing current 5th grade parents as well as parents who have a background in providing health education. We also are hoping to have a counselor and our school nurse and one of our elementary principals on the team. So probably in the range of 15 to 20. And just to restate the board engagement pieces, we are here in November now, and we would come back to you during our process to provide a progress update and help you understand how the decision towards piloting is coming along, and also give you a chance to learn more about the CHIA requirements for 5th grade and how that's showing up in the curriculum choices, and then in June to hear about the data that we've collected and the feedback and what the recommendation would be for potential adoption. Okay.
So now is the turn for clarifying question, Anjali.
Yes, right now we have adopted a curriculum for the 7th grade. Does that same company have 5th grade?
They do, so that would be one of the options that we would be looking at.
Follow-up question to that is, why would we not just use that and start piloting because we have already vetted that company? Or is there a good reason to spend, do another task force and go through the motions again? And because wouldn't it be easier for our children to kind of have a similar, when they get to 7th grade?
So we know that we will begin the conversation with making sure the task force is aware of that and taking a look at that. The PPP curriculum that was adopted for 7th, there is a 5th grade component. My understanding is that as we went through the discussions last spring, we just want to be sure we're going through a process and giving our due diligence to all of the options and, you know, considering everything that's available, so that we can do the best that we can for our kids. So we'll be looking at PPP, and certainly that criteria of, is this a complement to what they will learn in 7th grade? That piece, you know, will be strong, I'm sure, in that curriculum. But we didn't want to just assume that that was the best choice. Given all of the work that was done last year, I anticipate we may be able to kind of move the discussion along a little bit quicker than we would if we were just at the very beginning stage. But it's really just making sure that we're having a process, we're having input, and we're not overlooking a potential other path that could possibly be a better fit.
Yeah, I just want to point out that we recently changed the board policy around adoption of material. And one of the things we said is with this kind of a curriculum, we would do the full process that we use with the other materials. And so that, you know, we're just in that situation where we're going to follow the full process. But as Allison said, what we're going to really count on a lot is what are teachers saying about what's working with the current 7th grade, what they need the kids to have coming in order for that to be successful, you know, knowing both what they like about it and things they're challenged with. So obviously there'll be a certain advantage there in a way, but we really have to do the process because that's what our policy says we will do in these circumstances.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, so we will be teaching the human growth curriculum for 5th grade and 7th grade only, right?
That's what that's all we've
to clarify that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then one question is, in terms of the composition of the task force, right now it seems only the 5th grade parent will be involved. It seems like we should also involve lower grade parents because all their children are going to be using the same curriculum.
So not
it's available. The process would say that all community gets to weigh in on it, not just one grade. So
right.
Make sure there's a 5th grade parent there too. That's the way I read it. I didn't read it that it's only 5th grade parents.
So not that we would exclude everybody else, but we definitely want to be sure that as we're looking at interests, that 5th grade parents are represented on the group. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's prioritize current 5th grade parents, but we do expect to include parents from all grades. And then also I'm wondering, we already have a school nurse on the task force, and we have counselor on the task force, and we have majority will be teachers. then I don't think we need to prioritize parents with health education background. I think the perspective of parents would be trying to ensure that there is no bias in terms of race, ethnicity, and other culture things, so that we include everyone. So perhaps for parents, we want a diverse cultural background instead of emphasizing on health education, because that's already part of, we have nurse and counselor, which will give us perspective already. So just want.
That's the kind of feedback we do want to hear. And because it's actually not supposed to be discussion, but we did want the input, so that's important, and we will definitely consider that for sure. Are there other things like that? That's really kind of what we wanted. Well, first of all, clarifying questions, but also if there's anything like that that you want us to take into account going forward.
So given our recent history with human growth and development, I am really glad that you're exploring lots of different options. And my question in that regard is, does the state have a matrix since 5th grade is not required, or do they have a recommended list of stuff for you to look at, or how's that working? Because I know there's not a requirement for grade 5.
Right, so we have a matrix of the available curriculum that matches 5th grade and also is CHIA compliant. And then for our kind of local criteria, we want to be sure we can provide the support to teachers. So we want to select something where we can provide that local training and support, and also considering what we just adopted in 7th grade as a factor. So yes, we're not starting from scratch. We can see, the pieces that need to be looked at, and that's a good thing. We have our support from a professional development provider also that helps us with some of those questions.
Good, and the other thing is, I think we went astray somewhere with the beginning part of the last adoption, because there was such an uproar from the community. So I think we want to be very careful about communication, make sure everybody's on board and that we're letting the parents know exactly what we're thinking about. And also, I really liked the guided viewing piece. I really liked that last year when Stephanie Park, I think, was the one that did it, and she conducted all those meetings where parents and anybody who wanted could come. And we're actually guided through the curriculum, which I think is much healthier and much more informative than just to have them sit down and look at a binder. So I appreciate that piece of it. Thank you.
I have a question regarding the pilot curriculum. So looks like the task force will narrow down to one curriculum and just pilot one curriculum. Is that right?
We don't know yet what will happen, but we always try to pilot more than one if possible, because then it feels, like a true pilot, right, where we're testing it out. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way as a task force works through, and maybe they may identify that only one seems like the right fit, but we kind of go into it thinking that we'll probably try out more than one so we can have, some ability to compare and see how it went. Mm-hmm.
And just want to follow up with last discussion. I remember last time when we kind of mentioned about how the pilot class will look like. Maybe one is a boy class, another one's a girl class, another one is a unisex class. Is that what are we trying to do for 5th grade?
Do you mean that last year that was how the pilot happened?
Well, that was one of the board discussion.
That's not how it happened. I think the state law requires that you have to have it all together for
No,
the 7th.
no,
Not for
from 7th grade, but
Se-
for the
7th grade.
for 5th grade, I recall last time, Stacy, I think it's Stacy. I don't remember.
I don't remember 5th grade discussions. So
Wait, let Stacy answer.
Or
So
is
there
Creek.
was some discussion last year, just when we were talking about 5th grade, the options that are available at 5th grade, that you could have gender separate. You could have a male class, female class, but then you'd also have a 3rd class that was neutral. So that's a possibility, but that was just something that was tossed out, I think, during the discussion.
Yeah, is that what we are going to set it like that, or we are going to, or it will recommend by the task force?
I think we could bring back an update on that when we come back in the February-March timeframe, because I think that's something that we would want to, discuss with the task force, and I know that there are different things to consider when we think about the arrangement of the kids. So we could make that a part of that task force and then bring that opportunity back to you in that timeframe.
Any other clarifying questions? Okay.
So, yeah, I echo the concern. A lot of parents will be very interested to know whether it's same-sex or mixed or not, and we really need to get more feedback on that. And so, yeah, I think this is still an issue that has a lot of communities concerns. So what the problem we had from last time was the task force recommended only one curriculum. And I don't see it clearly from the current plan. The task force would be recommending only one or two. It doesn't sound like it could be they might recommend just one. And also in the board engagement piece, it sounds like the board doesn't have a lot of involvement in the process. The task force will simply be updating the board. Here's the recommendation, here's what we have. And then at the end we pilot, and then here's our recommendation. So basically we are still rubber stamping, kind of. That's the way it feels from the current.
So I don't want it to feel that way, so let's
Yeah,
talk about that a
so-
little more. That middle piece in February, March, I'm thinking of that as a way for us to share with you the thinking of the task force and also to hear your thinking prior to making any recommendation and going into the next phase. So I would want to bring the curriculum. I would do my best to bring our support provider with me if she could make it to that meeting too, so that and maybe even some of the task force members, so that you could get a sense of the work and you could weigh in on the things that we're thinking about prior to us moving into that recommendation stage. If there are other pieces that you would want to hear along the way, we can definitely adjust this.
My question is
I
more.
just say, I know it's about the number. Are we presupposing one curriculum is what you're saying?
No, not exactly my question.
Okay.
So my question is really who is making the decision on what curriculum to pilot? It's right now I don't see, for example, a public hearing where parents can provide input. That was what we had last time. And we don't have that
So
right now.
our policy and regulations suggest that we would have a committee made up of the people that we've talked about. Their task given to them really by the board is to come up with more than one curriculum in order for us to be able to pilot it to do the full process. And that's already in that's why we went through the effort of getting those policies to take care of this, because now what we do is we follow the policy. And the policy says that we will engage that group. That group has to be made up of more experts than community. Though we will engage community, that committee considers all of that information. The public will be weighing in during all that time, is what this says, and so will the board, before we would bring back, okay, we've gathered all that information, here's what we recommend, here's the 2, the 3, whatever, curricula that we believe should be piloted. And then you will have a say in it at that
So
time.
does the board make decision on which ones to pilot, or it's just we will pilot whatever the task force recommend? I'm confused because last year, I thought the process last year was the task force recommended one curriculum. We put that curriculum for public review. Maybe we'll have a better review process this time. And then we had a public hearing and people come and give inputs. And then we had the board approval of that curriculum, and we didn't approve that one. So I thought we had, maybe I didn't read the policy clearly, but I thought that this is the full curriculum adoption process that we would follow for this one too, but that's not clear from this slide. That's the process.
I think that what the slides are trying to point out are the engagement parts of what are in the policy. We didn't try to represent here the full policy. That wasn't our point, right? We're here to say, we heard the board say, and I think we all agree, that it is really important for us to have full engagement of our community. And so we're bringing that to you to see that we have a very comprehensive plan to do that. And the board, in the end, approves or disapproves of the curriculum that gets brought forward. And so if at that time you say, you know what, I don't think you went through all the processes that we should have gone through. I don't think we have heard enough from community. We feel like we need to actually look at, we hear from community this, and so we think we need to go back and do it. And so you get to say, we're not ready to approve the whatever is brought back as a recommendation based on whether we followed the policy and brought forth all the things that you felt that we should do. Did we listen to community, et cetera?
That's after the pilot, you mean?
Well, eventually for making approval, but up there
Because
we're
from
telling
here,
you there's several
the
times
approval
that
is
we're
only
coming.
after the pilot. That's at the very end.
But there's a lot of dialogue before that. And so going into that, you will have had a lot of feedback and input into that process, as will community.
So Liang, if you
Yeah.
look at their chart, every time there's a star, they're coming back to the board with information. And if you notice what we've been doing with the different surveys and things that go out to the community, the board has an opportunity to see that also and weigh in. But the way I'm looking at it is that there will be a lot of opportunity for the board to give feedback, just like they're here today in October, November, to say, this is the process we're going to follow, and what is it that we, so that the board knows what's happening.
Okay, so here's what my concern is. There are these checkpoints with information from the task force to the board, not the other way around. There is no opportunity for the board to provide our feedback, because after all, each one of us was elected to represent parents, and we should be involved, at least we should be able to provide input in the process. But for right now, we only would be able to provide feedback at the very end after.
That's not what it's saying.
pilot.
That is saying that from February through June, because there's stars on both of those, you will have ample opportunity to give feedback, input, because every time we get that from you, and when we go to the committee is not just looking at their own data. They're listening to you, they're listening to parents, they're listening to staff, they're listening to research, and they're putting together ideas. We bring those back, you look at them. This has been our accordion process since the day I started here, and I don't think I've let you down in saying that I'm going to bring it to you, we're going to go back, and we're going to reflect your thoughts and feelings in it, and then we're going to go back again, and we're going to keep doing it. And as Allison said, if in June you don't feel we did it enough, then we're not going to make a decision, and we're going to wait. That's what she's putting forth.
So maybe I misunderstood. I thought there will be only a report to the board on the progress from the task force after recommendation was formed. So there will be report intermediate
discussion, yeah.
before the final recommendation was made. Okay, then. Okay.
Other clarifying question? Okay. Can I join the meeting? Can I join the task force after?
When you're off the board?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend that because
I have an upcoming 5th grade.
Well,
You get to apply.
you get to apply. I was going to say, ask me when you're not sitting at the dais. We'll
Yeah.
have that conversation.
actually, can we? I think can we formally have a board member that represents us on the committee that actually Have a better
Let's-
communication.
let's
That's
talk
a
about
whole
that.
different discussion.
Yeah, let's
Yes.
talk about that another time. That is not within our policy. It's
That's
not
not-
generally considered a good idea, but we can talk about that offline.
It's a different, and it has to be agendized to talk about it. That's not on the agenda right now.
We can, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Can
can
we
come back and talk
agendize
about
that
the makeup
next
of the
time?
committee.
Well, we
separately.
are going to talk at some point about makeup of all committees, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you very much. And the next item still Allison's presentation, 8.2, local control accountability plans, local indicators.
Yeah, to the next one.
Change gears.
Okay,
Change gears.
so you received a long slide deck from me on this, and now I'm going to show you a short version because I know that you've already reviewed all of the information that was posted, and I want to help us kind of hone in on the most important parts of the presentation. So tonight we're going to talk about the local indicators. This is part of our California School Dashboard, which is still fairly new. So we'll talk about what that is, and I'll show a really short 2-minute video about that. And then we will talk about what are the local indicators as a component of the dashboard, and how we measure those here in our district, and what the next steps are. And we'll take questions as well. So, I hope that this is
Jeff,
going
it's
to...
cold.
Come on, Jeff.
Sorry.
Okay.
Now the air is moving, so we can play, we can cool it a little bit.
So, I'm not sure what information you've had about the dashboard before, but it's kind of like the new API system, if you remember API. So we're going to hear a quick update on that, and I'm expecting that before they launch the dashboard this year in December with the new data, I think they're going to fiddle with some of these little icons and things, but we'll get a sense of what it's all about with this short video, and then I'll be updating you on how the dashboard's evolving over the course of the year.
The California School Dashboard was created in 2017 to offer parents, educators, and the community a more comprehensive look at how our K-12 schools are educating and supporting students. This new online tool marks a major shift in school accountability. In the past, a 3-digit score was assigned based primarily on standardized tests. The California School Dashboard presents a more complete picture of your school's performance. Here's how to see how your school is doing. Visit www.casschooldashboard.org. Then type in the name of your school in the search bar and select yours from the list. On your school's page, you'll find an overview that includes several state indicators measuring academic achievement, school climate, student engagement, college and career readiness, and other priorities. For each of these, there's a color-coded pie that shows how well your school or district is doing. A full blue pie is the highest rating. A red pie with just one slice is the lowest. In between are green, yellow, and orange. Scores are calculated based on overall performance, as well as progress over a 3-year period. You can use the navigation tabs to learn more about the scores or dive into more detailed reports. If you're looking up a district on the dashboard, you'll also find an additional section featuring local indicators. These are self-reported based on locally available data. You can even look up your local county office of education, which will have data on services for expelled students and foster youth. The California School Dashboard was designed to help families and communities better understand the strengths of their local schools, along with the challenges they face. The data will also empower communities to make changes tailored to local needs. To learn more about California's accountability efforts, visit CDE.
Okay, so, whoops, that's not it. We have a lot of presentations happening tonight. Okay, let's see here. There we go. Okay, so As the video mentioned, the dashboard includes state indicators, so that includes things like the CASP results and suspension data. And then there's the other part of the dashboard that are the local indicators. And we're reporting on these tonight because part of the requirement is to annually update the board and community at a regularly scheduled meeting on how we're measuring these and how it's going in preparation for entering our status and a little paragraph about how we're tackling all of this in our district, and that's due into the dashboard by our staff by mid-November. So I think as we get used to this new system, it won't be all probably in one meeting. We can pace these things out over time so that it's not all together at once, but it's a new system, so we're sort of catching up and making sure that we're meeting the requirement of entering this in November. And we have 7 priorities that are part of the dashboard. And the green ones, I put those in green because it's already a go. Green for go, we've got that covered. State priority 1, basic services and conditions of learning, as I noted in the longer set of slides. This is, are we taking care of our basic services? The Williams complaint process that comes to you regularly is our process for making sure that we're taking care of that. State priority 3, parent engagement. Also, we've had some nice strengths in the district with the parent surveys and engagement processes that have happened as part of LCAP. So things like the thought exchange that occurred last school year in preparation for LCAP. So we're already meeting those requirements. Tonight, we're going to dive into 2, 6, and 7, but we're going to go a little bit out of order. I'm going to cover 2 and 7, and then John is going to dig into priority 6, school climate, because that is our California Healthy Kids Survey results.
Can you real briefly, 4 and 5 that are not there? Why
4 and 5 are not for our system, and I didn't bring my list of what we have there, but some of the priorities are only for county office or only for high school districts. So, and it's also been emerging. So all of the priorities were not introduced at once with a measure on the dashboard because it's a new system. So I can't remember what they are, but I will get that for you. Okay, so as we're assessing our performance in the local indicators, we need to give ourselves a rating of met, not met, or not met for 2 or more years. And we will be entering met for all of the areas. Met means that we have a process and that we are reporting it. It's not a kind of level of success measure. It's are we engaging in a process and then reporting that as required. So priority 2 is talking about the implementation of standards. And this is spanning across teaching the standards, professional development, instructional materials. And in order to measure this, I sent out a survey to our teachers, and also our school principals completed this. And it's helping us get a sense of where we are in terms of our curriculum adoption and support for teachers and schools. And we got a lot of great information. A lot of it was validating kind of what the district's plan has been and is going to be. So, for example, strengths in the area of English language arts, especially things like the writing workshop that we heard about, were noted. Also, strengths in math were noted. Looking at the survey feedback. And then we knew coming into the year that our next areas of opportunity are in NGSS, science, and also social studies. So those are really our next steps as a district in terms of curriculum adoption and professional development for teachers. And our teachers are very eager to begin that conversation and be ready for that next step. We also know that ELD continues to be an area of conversation, and we're always wanting to improve what we're doing in that area, so that came up as well. TK coordination is something that also popped up, and we happy to say that we had a meeting with those TK teachers today to get that conversation started. And then there was also just some hopeful feedback about the kinds of communication that teachers want to receive from the district. Teachers want to know, what is our plan, not just for this year, but the years ahead, and want to know that we're considering time as we think about our plans, knowing that it takes support over a period of years as teachers are learning new curriculum, and also to be aware of how many new things are happening at once and what that looks like in a student's day. Teachers really value a lot of the professional development that they've had over the years in the district, and they also want to know more about how, as we begin things like NGSS and social studies, how we will ensure that consistent curriculum is provided to a grade level or department across the district, but also that we include a sense of choice for teachers to participate in professional development that feels meaningful for them, both in our district and beyond our district. So each of those areas, we had a rating that was in the longer slide deck. So the 1 through 5. So are we at a beginning stage or a developed stage? Shall I keep going, or would you like to ask questions on this part? Okay. All right. So the next priority is a broad course of study. So this is asking us to take a look at what we're offering to our students across our schools. And a broad course of study is defined K-6 and 7-8. And this is a new area that is part of the local indicators. And this is the very beginning part of this conversation for us. And I want to say that as we're looking at these local indicators, I really appreciate this part of the dashboard because it's asking us to take those kind of test scores and suspension data kinds of feedback and match that with local input about what our next steps could be. So this is an area that we know we need to report on now to meet that November requirement, but we also know that we need many more conversations to understand this very initial data that we've received. So we don't know yet what is most important about what came up at this point, and that will be the work of this year as we're going through our strategic planning process and then the natural flow of the SIPSAs and the LCAP, and we're determining what is most important for us to work on for our students as a next step. So I surveyed our elementary principals, our middle school principals and counselors, and then Lily, who is just amazing up in our Ed Services office, took a look at student enrollment in the middle schools and a variety of courses. So that was how we were measuring this. So that's this very initial first look at all of this and areas for us to dig into. We know in our elementary schools that schools have different levels of funding because we have contributions that are coming in at the school site. And so that creates some variations in programming for our kids, particularly in areas such as art and music. Looking at that broad course of study definition, we know that we have some areas of opportunity in social and emotional learning, which we know is coming up a lot as part of our MTSS work, health, PE, as well as career and technical education, helping kids have a sense of different career paths that they may want to explore going forward. We also see that we have this wonderful richness of different electives and classes happening across the middle schools. So many exciting things. I just loved taking a look at that list of all the different courses that are offered. We also see that there's quite a lot of variation, between the schools in terms of what they're offering and the number of courses. The percentage of students participating in foreign language varies across the schools as well. We do have our CLIP kids coming up, into middle school, so the 55% reflects, that. I want to mention that. There is a variation, but that, I think, is a contributing factor. Also, we have some different schedules, different number of minutes overall, as well as just different bell schedules and number of minutes within the classes. And so that's something that was notable as we were looking at the schedules, and also the 0 period option and the impact of electives for some of our kids who have IEPs or who are English learners who are taking support classes. Sometimes that support class sort of counts as their elective in their schedule, which means they would have, they would need to come to a 0 period to choose their elective. So, as I said, this is just a very initial look as we're working towards figuring out how to address Priority 7 in our district. I think it's a great time for this because we're having all these conversations about our portrait of a graduate and what we want for our kids. So as we're moving down that path of what we want for all kids, this can be a part of that conversation. We also, of course, are continuing all of the work that we're already doing with our teacher leadership teams and our principals, and really honing in on setting up collaborative opportunities for our teams to really look at each student, setting up our data systems and conversations to really pay attention to the needs at each school site and for each student. We're continuing all of those conversations as part of SIPSA and LCAP, as I mentioned, and we're trying to increase our communication between ed services and teachers about all of the work that is coming to address things like NGSS and ELD and social studies. So this is a very exciting and busy time here in our district, and I think that the local indicators give us a great opportunity to reflect on some of the pieces that will inform our strategic planning work. So we're going to go to the checks presentation, but I wonder if you have any questions about this first, and then we'll go to part 2, the checks presentation.
Thank you. Anyone have any clarifying questions on this part?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
If I can make so.
Yeah.
I just want to say that when I started 10 years ago, the discussions were very similar in terms of seeing how we can get the minutes together, the middle schools being the same. And I think Phyllis has asked this a long time. So all I want to say is, to the new board members coming in, all the best. We were able to do but now you may be able to accomplish something because there's a state requirement, which is different than when you're trying to do it at a local level. So, but I was crackling because a lot of this is we've been trying to do for years. And we did accomplish something. We got language in every middle school, so.
And I think instructional minutes are huge. I've been hammering on this for years. So I hope that as we move forward, and I know messing with middle school schedules is not easy, but I really think it's not equitable for our kids.
Anyone else on questions on this part of the presentation?
So we're not discussing, right?
No, clarifying, yeah.
Just pontificating.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very good to get a different view. I have one question. So you said the participation rate from the 5th grade was not enough to get valid data. So what's the percentage of participation from 5th and 7th grade? What percentage is considered enough
So
to have data?
that'll be part of John's presentation
Oh,
coming
okay.
soon, and he
Okay.
has it all ready for you. Yes.
Kristen?
Yeah, I do have question about the Priority 7, the broad course of studies, a lot of information, and I like when we say we met the indicator, I kind of still have a very vague concept about like what met means.
Yeah.
Regarding, because a lot of intangible stuff like health, like career, technical education, something like that. So
right.
I just curious like how that goes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's really a process requirement. So it doesn't mean that we've met a standard in each of these areas. They're asking us to have a process for looking at a broad course of study in our district. So our process was surveying the principals and the middle school counselors, and then looking at that course enrollment in middle school. And then the other part of it is we have to identify the things that we'll be doing to address this feedback and these noticing. So having this as part of our strategic planning and as part of LCAP and CIPSA is the next step in that area. And then bringing it for report to the board in a
number. And we're moving to having multiple measures now. And what this is really saying is that we actually are able to have multiple measures because we are able to collect data, have a way of doing that in a process for looking at it so that we can more comprehensively measure our success, right? So this is saying, yes, we're meeting the requirement that we are collecting multiple measures, essentially, other ways of looking. Right? Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, at some of these pieces, as we go through the strategic planning and LCAP and CIPSA, some of these might turn into goals, you know, that we're working on. And then we would have other types of measurements that assessed, you know, our progress towards those goals, like in the LCAP, for example. So for now, we're just at phase one of raising it, having a process and talking about it. And then we'll see what bubbles up as most important for us to work on next.
Thank you.
To go to
Yeah, I
part
think John.
Yeah.
We're ready for that.
Okay, so I'm gonna get his.
Yeah, more clarifying questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the broad course of study, who decides this list? And would we have an opportunity to review them later?
So it's given to us by the state as part of that priority definition. You are able to specify other areas that our district designates as part of a broad course of study. So as we go forward with our strategic planning, you could add to the list if there were other areas, you know, that we wanted to make a part of our definition of a broad course of study.
So we can add to it.
You can add, yes.
So these are all required by the
Yes.
states right now?
Mm-hmm.
And
Required for the assessment of a broad course of study. Mhm.
So, for example, we might have engineering or STEM, and also maybe leadership, civic engagement for as part of a study,
could,
right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Some of like the engineering is actually embedded in the science standards now in NGSS. So, but yes, those are good examples of things we could look at.
Right, or we could expand the name like science and engineering, or, you know, that would all be fine. It says these and any others designated by the school district. Mhm.
So, like visual and performing arts, we don't. That's not part of the. It's not a standalone course of study, and we don't really fund a lot of our visual and performing arts. So, are we meeting the state requirement on this?
So it's not asking us about the state requirement for what it is, but, and we can interpret this broadly. So all of the kids' experiences that they have even in their regular classroom that are related to visual and performing arts can be a part of that thinking. It's not saying that it has to be a separate piece. There are, you know, specific learning outcomes in each of these areas, and that is one of the areas that we have some differences school to school in. But we can consider it broadly over the course of their education. What are all the ways that they are getting access to that? So I know I'm seeing a lot of amazingly wonderful things coming from the schools, different contracts that are, you know, things that are happening in the classroom as well as outside the classroom in that area, for example. It doesn't specify how we have to do it, just that we're thinking about what are the kids' experiences in our system.
Final question. So it's good to see that, okay, so we now see the challenge is different schools have offer different things. There is a diversity. So when are we going to talk about the next step of the action? You had next steps. What's the timeline that we might be doing to try and address the challenges?
Well, in that specific area, one opportunity that's coming up right away is the Strategic Planning Steering Committee is gathering to review all of the feedback that came from that Portrait of a Graduate work. So we are just in that stage of taking a look at that, and then we'll be bringing back to you an update on where we are with strategic planning and what the feedback and themes are. So this may be something that pops up in that feedback, or it may be something that you want to raise, as we're thinking about that next phase of our strategic planning process. So we're going to be coming back to you December 6th, to talk about that process and what the next steps may be. We are, of course, we're starting our process of analyzing how things are going and what the goals are for next year as part of SIPSA. That process is kind of continuing. So the conversations with the principals and thinking about the strengths and where they're going next is sort of an ongoing piece. So that is definitely happening now. And we have this wonderful opportunity as part of strategic planning to figure out, we don't know right now what's most important about those variations. So that can be part of that conversation.
Thank you so much.
So I think we're ready. And also, as always, for the information items, if anyone has ongoing questions at any time after this, you can email or talk to Craig and ask him your questions, and he'll get back to you. Okay, we're ready.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about the California Healthy Kids Survey and our results this year and a little bit more about that. I just want to point out that I put Joe's name on this, but he's been on jury duty for 2 weeks, so he's not here to join us, but in spirit, he's with us. So today we'll talk about what is the California Healthy Kids Survey, and just look at a few key takeaways from the data this year. Talk about a little bit about next steps, and hopefully I'll be able to answer questions or get information that you'd like. So the California Healthy Kids Survey is given every other year in the district. It is a survey that is available to 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th graders. It's required every other year in 7th grade, but we give it to our 5th graders and our 7th graders. So because our schools go to 5th, we want to make sure we include those populations when we're looking at school climate, as well as the students in middle schools. We are actually applying for the tobacco use prevention education money this year. We couldn't do that if we weren't doing this. This is one of the requirements for that, just a little trivia. The data the results are reported back to the district in two kinds of reports: a district-wide 5th grade report, so all the schools that had enough data in 5th grade, and then the percentage is 70%. 70% is considered valid for looking at data to understand school-wide concerns. If 55% of the 5th graders participate, it's still important. We know what their perceptions are, but we can't really make judgments school-wide based on that because it's just not enough participation. So that answers that question. So I think we shared a district 5th grade report with you and a 7th grade report. The 5th grade reports, as you saw, I think you saw in your packet, there weren't enough schools at 70% or more for that to actually be a valid window into what is going on in 5th grade in our district. But the 7th grade data was valid because we had above 70% in all of our middle schools. So these are the areas that California Healthy Kids Survey measures. So as Allison shared, to meet the standard for the dashboard, we have to have a process, and we have to look at gather information from various places to learn about the school climate in our schools. So these are the kind of the domains of school climate. So student connectedness, which does include attendance, but it also includes learning engagement and motivation in school. Then kind of this thing called school culture and climate and the conditions of learning. And then safety is big. Do kids feel safe? And to what degree do they perceive their schools to be places where they're free from being bullied? And then physical and mental well-being are considered, and there are specific survey questions for each of these domains, and social emotional learning, and then student supports, including resilience promoting factors, which are caring relationships, high expectations, and meaningful participation. So this is that multi-tiered support system triangle that I talked to you about just not too long ago at standing here. This system, gathering data this way and making decisions based on important data, it fits into our multi-tiered systems of support model. And so the idea is that we're not just saying, what's a problem in our school? Naming something without any real data to measure that, and then saying, I know how we could solve it. Not very scientific, but instead we're saying, here's some information that we've gathered. It looks like some areas of strength are here, and then here are some areas that we really need to work on based on the response, the actual information that we got back. And now, looking at what we do as a school, what is an intelligent kind of idea that we can come up with, something that we can try to bolster that data and actually improve the way students are perceiving their school experience. Let's put those things in place, and then let's measure that again and see if we're improving our school. And it's a continuous process. You're never really finished as a principal and as a staff and as parent groups trying to make your school as great as it can be, right? So here, now I'm just going to talk about some of the information that was in the response that we gathered this year. So, and this is from the valid reports. So most students in 7th grade report these things: feeling safe, their teachers believe in them, there are others in the school that they do feel close to, and that they believe they're really working hard to do their best in school. So those are wonderful things to have, you know, real data behind them. Here are the data sets that show us that these things are true. And we do have, this is the district-wide report for 7th grade. We do have, 3 years of data here, so you can see the progress. And you can see the exact questions here that the students have to answer. So I feel safe in my school, always, most of the time, seldom, never. Those are the responses they can pick. So I just wanted to pick a few because you can take time to look at those reports, and our principals are doing that actually with their staffs. But some key challenges that came out, one is that fact that our 5th grade response rates are low. And so I need to clarify that to allow your children to take the survey, you have to physically give permission on a signed active permission slip. It's much harder to get active permissions back than it is to assess everyone except the parents who sign that they don't want their kids to take a survey, which is the case in 7th grade. So response rates in all districts tend to be much higher with any kind of passive permissions. So the other concerns that I listed here, we'll look at the data for those in a minute, but fewer than half of our 7th graders report doing things in the category of questions that add up to, doing things that make a difference. So I know all of us and all the teachers, everyone in the district wants kids to feel like the work they do is meaningful and makes a difference. Another challenge is fewer than 2/3 of our students report knowing an adult at the school really cares about them. So it's interesting because the prior piece was they feel confident that someone in the school, they have a caring relationship with someone, but it might be another student. It might be a sibling. But in the case of another adult in the school that works in the school, fewer than 2/3 say that that's true. And then the last one is really, it's tragic. I don't know how else to put it. And I want to say that we're not alone in California with this last one. In fact, it's a problem in all our schools, and it actually gets worse in 9th grade and even worse in 11th grade. But there's this report by the students that they've experienced almost 1 in 5 of our kids, so 19%, report having experienced chronic sadness or hopelessness in the last year. I'll show you the exact question. It's coming up if you haven't had a chance to see it. So that's significant, obviously. So before we get to that last, more tragic one, here is the background. Here are the data sets that show what we have here. So doing things that make a difference is part of meaningful participation. Other things in meaningful participation include getting to have choice, getting to have input towards activities in the classroom, helping to make classroom rules or school rules, being able to do things that are helpful in school. So all of those things contribute to meaningful participation. The caring relationships one is there, you can see. So I think what the principals agreed when we met Monday is we're concerned about that meaningful participation piece, because we really want our kids to enjoy school, to think that it's important, the work they do is important beyond just getting a score or a grade. So everyone agreed with that. And here's that question that's so tough. And the actual question reads, during the past 12 months, did you ever feel so sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks or more that you stopped doing some usual activities? And they call that chronic sadness, hopelessness, and it's part of the mental and physical health piece. And I met with the district wellness committee in this room and talked a little bit about this. They're quite aware that, you know, we have some concerns with mental health in our schools, as do all the schools in California. But, you know, just because we're part of a larger group doesn't discount it at all, and we're concerned about that. And there are a number of people here in this building that work on this every day and put a lot of energy into it, but we need to set some goals around it. So our actions and next steps are here. So we have already begun working with the principals. So last week we reshared their surveys with them. The timing of receiving the surveys kind of right at the beginning of their return to the school year meant that a lot of them hadn't really had a chance to dig into them. When you come back as a principal, you get very, very busy working towards opening day. And so these things kind of get on a back shelf, and they were really grateful to have them again now when they have more time to look at them. And then as a staff, we worked in this room on Monday, delving into the data sets and trying to understand our own individual schools. And all the directors and others were in the room moving about and helping with that. So we all agreed that we really want our participation rates across all our schools to be higher. And we definitely need them in our 5th grade schools so that we can use this as part of our improvement cycle, and really, you know, get into those leadership teams and those whole staff teams to set goals to improve our schools. And then the second bullet there is about identifying resources and developing protocols. So we did actually do some protocols together in the room, which principals said they were really grateful for, because they've never really thought about how to present this to their staff and how to develop goals from these data sets that are so, in some ways, so surprising or challenging. So that was very positive. We also have, we contacted WestEd, who produces the reports, and they sent us yesterday, and we were able to share with principals just this afternoon, very short 4-page school climate report cards. I have a sample of one. I think you probably saw it. It's coming up, I think, in the next slide. I'll just go to it. It looks like this on the first 2 pages. And it's nice, our middle school ones actually show 3 years of progress for each of the specific areas. And it's all kind of deltaed or gained here, so they can see the change. And it's really helpful to share that in a glance with your staff, with your parent groups, your SIPSA, your school site councils, your PTAs, your ELACs, any groups that you meet with can quickly look at these and understand big ideas. But then those larger reports with each individual data sets per question are very useful then for actually rolling up your sleeves and setting goals around. So, the third bullet is just, we talk a lot about this now in the district. Everything we do, we try and connect it to real data and really have this scientific process of making decisions based on data. And I think all the staff are really coming along with that. And then the last one is that piece I talked to you about. This conversation came up. It continues to come up. We know we need mental health supports and actually preventative supports like social emotional learning at a very young age so that children are more comfortable dealing with their feelings. They know what to do when they have a problem, and they know someone in the school that they can go and talk to. So it's kind of a continuum of things we need to do to support these kids. I just think, and I'm just going to speak from my own, long life, it's harder to be a kid today than it was when I was in school. Things were much simpler and I'm going to say with the internet, with computers in their pockets, these kids and social media, there is so much more pressure to be a kid today. And so I think this last bullet point, it's real, it's a concern, and we have to help these kids in some ways. And there's a lot we can do in terms of school climate to lift kids up and help them see the sky. So we're going to continue working on this. So there's the sample of the report card. So almost every school got this. In order for this to be produced, a school had to have at least one of their scores, all the middle schools got them. For the schools with 5th grades, they looked at 2 years of data, and for the 7th grades, they looked at 3. I don't think we were doing it in 5th grade 3 data sets ago. So, but you had to have 50% response rate or higher in at least one of those two. So not every school got one of these great little 4-pagers, but every school does have a protocol and next steps. So that brings us to questions.
Thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Questions? Phyllis first.
It's not a question, but I applaud your efforts to increase the 5th grade participation. I think that's really important that we have that data. But I want to talk a little bit about that hopelessness, because it's not only with our kids. I have a granddaughter who's in her 20s, and she's having some issues now. So I've been doing a fair amount of research about this, and that demographic from like 18 to 24, 5, is experiencing all kinds of issues around hopelessness and anxiety and all those things you described. So I think this is where it starts. We need to help our kids so that they can get through those years as well. It just seems to be multiplying as it goes along. So thank you for your work there.
Adding that. And I know it's coming up. I've been to a number of these community meetings about Portrait of a Graduate, and the parents do bring up these life skills that are beyond kind of being in school. Just being flexible and understanding that it's okay to make a mistake. You just learn from it. And but some of what you're talking about is the price of housing in the neighborhood they're growing up in. I mean, that makes me I understand hopelessness when I look at my own children, right, growing up into this world. So how do we help them grapple with those bigger things too? Yeah.
Kristen?
Yeah. I actually a little bit confused about the requirement. So the requirement is the 5th and 7th grade, and it need parents' permission to participate. Is that right?
So
to respond.
So let me clarify. So in our district, we've made it a requirement and it's required by the state to have some measure to study school climate. So we're using this to study school climate. And in 7th grade, it's a passive permission. So that means the parents get an email or letters saying we're going to have this survey. Here are the questions. They're directed to look at them online. You can read all the questions. If you don't want your student to take this, please sign and return. So if a principal doesn't hear anything from a student's parents, that student gets to take the survey. By the way, a student can skip any number of questions. They're encouraged by their teachers to raise their hands if they have a question, but if a student says, there's a question here about, like in 7th grade, there's a question here about e-cigarettes. I don't know what that means. The teacher would say, well, then skip it. If you don't know what it means, great. That's a good thing. So then, but then with the 5th grade, the principals send out a letter and it tells about this survey, and they say, here are the questions, and the parents can read the questions. If you would like your student, if you will allow your student to take the survey, please sign this and return it. So now the principal can only assess the 5th grade students who return the survey. So what that means to me, just taking it a step further, is the survey information that is given to us by California Healthy Kids, it's very kind of simple and straightforward. I would like the principals to reach out and say, I'm enclosing a letter, but I want you to know this is a very important survey. It helps us improve our school climate so children can have a more positive, safe experience at school. Please allow your student to take the survey by signing the letter that's enclosed. Then I think if we really tried to garnish their enthusiasm as opposed to just get their permission, I think we'd get more participation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just don't understand about why we make that policy like this. Like, if there is already a concern and challenge we already know about it, I don't understand why we do the CASP for the academic wise from 3rd grade to 8th grade. Every grade we do it. And for this one, we only do 5th grade and 7th grade, and we already know like those questions. I mean, like why we need a permission and why we don't do it for each grade. I just don't. I just feel if it doesn't really create a lot of work, maybe that's worth to do one extra mile for this study.
No, I agree with you. I think it's ed code that we can't require students to take a survey that asks these kinds of questions. They're not really academic questions. They're about, do you feel close to an adult in your school? They're emotional questions. And so I think we're, by state law, required to get their permission at 5th grade. Starting at, all the way up to 6th grade, actually. Starting in 7th grade, you can just give kids any survey.
We can talk later about what are the ways every year in all classes we are assessing our children's wellness, social, emotional, psychological, physical wellness. There are ways of doing that we can look at, but this is a state one that really is mandated, once elementary, one in middle school, well, in high school. So we're in this case, it really is just state mandated, but we should be looking at how are we measuring ongoingly how our kids are doing.
A lot of talk in the Wellness Committee, too, about some way to really keep track of our students' mental health in a big way. Yeah, thank you.
Anjali, did you have? Okay, Liang?
So, yeah. So this is an online survey, is it? Once the parents opt in or opt out?
No, they have to return a hard copy
It's a hard copy.
To opt in.
I mean, the opt-in or out letter is hard copy, but once they decide to opt in, it's an online survey.
So I haven't actually asked all the principals that. It is an online survey. It can also be done with paper and pencil and sent in that way. I don't believe we've been using paper and pencil, but I forgot to ask that because it's so easy to do online. And we all our schools have technology for that.
And
So I'm
do-
sorry I didn't ask that.
So do they take the survey in school or at home? Like
Yeah, they
seventh
take it
grade,
during
they-
class.
Seventh grade, they take it during the class, so participation is a lot higher. I think, like the fifth grade, I noticed that at the end of the report, participation on some school is over 90% for fifth grade.
Isn't that excellent?
So how do they achieve that? Because they have to opt in all of them, right? For Portel and Dealworth, they are over 90%. And Blue Hill is like 17% though.
Right.
So,
We can learn from that, so we'll.
Absolutely. I mean,
So-
we talked about that in our principals meeting. We want to take advantage of whatever we can gain. And so I want to interview those principals. I have talked to the principals who have no results, and they felt that they had so few return, it didn't make sense to have 1 or 2 or 3 kids in each class take the survey. So, but we are really, that's kind of, I talked to them about it. They're ready for it. We're really going to have this push to garnish enthusiasm, and it should change things.
And do you have one more clarifying question?
if the parents opt in, can the kids choose not to take the survey still? Or they can skip all the questions?
Yeah, they can. Actually, there's no way to force a student to answer the questions. And the instructions say if you get to a question you don't feel comfortable answering, leave it blank.
Because my concern is if we are seeing like 1 in 4 or 5 kids who have sadness, maybe more, because those ones who feel that way, they won't even answer the survey. And so this is anonymous, so we can't really tell which kids are there that
That's
who
right.
need that help.
We share that concern, that's why we want to increase the participation. Get all our schools to the 90%.
And she's right. It's anonymous, so it's not really a screening tool to pick out the students to support, but it certainly helps us figure out some really important priorities in our school climate in terms of students being able to talk to somebody, right? Find somebody to talk to, being able to participate so they don't feel that they're hopeless because they're looking forward to something fun that's coming up that they helped plan. And those kinds of things, we're just making an educated guess that those things will support all of our students, including those ones that are sad.
Meaningful participation rate is kind of low. That was surprising too. But then I do wonder, maybe they don't understand what that means. For example, you said you get to decide the class rules. That means meaningful participation. But if someone asked me, do I feel I have meaningful participation, I wouldn't think about that. So did we give them at least some examples of what that means
Yeah,
when
so
they answer
if you,
the question?
and I can meet with you offline to show you, but
okay,
on
yeah.
the reports that you have, I think it's table A1.2. It's the kind of like a table of contents of those structures. And when you get to meaningful participation, if you look at the table associated with it, you go down, you scroll down. It has all the questions. I think for the fifth graders, there are 5, and for the seventh graders, I think there are 3, unless I have that reversed, sorry.
Maybe I can talk to you later, but
Yeah.
general, do you see a difference between schools in terms of the score?
I mean,
Just general.
there is a difference between schools, yeah.
Yeah, we'll take
But
that offline.
I have to say, all of our schools have low meaningful participation rates. I mean, lower than we would expect. The principals and I agreed that when we think of that pyramid, 80% of our kids, at least, the ones that don't need any extra help with it, 80% of our kids should score high on that. Like, we like to come to school, it's meaningful, we get to do things we like to do in school. But anything less than 80 is a concern, and some are 50 and some are 41, and so, yeah. And 15% for the 7th graders is very low.
So much.
Yeah, thank you. So I have one kind of comment and then a question. So the comment is to reiterate what Phyllis said. Thank you for taking the time to look at this. And the principals do have a lot on their plate, to look at them deeply with the numbers. I really appreciate it. The second kind of comment question is sort of along the lines of what Liang was saying. But so we have this California Healthy Kids Survey and all the data, and then Project Cornerstone also has a developmental asset survey every few years. And so this meaningful participation, I think they also have one called, it's similar, it's called student engagement, and that's also low across the county. And the questions, like you said, we have a list of questions, but they come from these organizations, so they're not specific to our schools. So if like you and the principals were to think this was something, because I think also the meaningful participation plays into the social emotional health of the students, right? Like if they're engaged in what's happening in school. Yeah. So would it be like, if we have like writer's workshop or reader's workshop or STEAM, that you would like at the end ask those kids in those schools and say, does, having writer's workshop increase your feelings of participation in the school, so that we can see specifically like which programs are benefiting our students? Does that make sense?
And we actually can add modules
to these surveys?
Yeah.
Okay.
A module is considered 3 questions or more.
Okay.
So it's very simple to do that. It's not expensive for
Okay.
the district to do that.
Okay.
So those are great ideas. When I was listening to these little girls read, I was thinking, wow, they have so much choice in their writing. I know they're excited to go to school and work on that writing, right?
And the same thing with like the adult connection. The questions could be particular to the school, like, does walkathon make you feel like you have more connections to adults or whatever, right? To figure out which programs are contributing to these.
It's really good feedback. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we all asked. If you have any more questions, just email them to Craig.
Because I like the feeling sadness, I noticed that there is a difference between race. Certain racial have much higher in
So
that.
I really
yeah.
appreciate you
That's
raising
really
that.
important.
That's what the principals are doing with their staffs at every school, to dig down specifically at their site at all of those. So I think we can probably do another update of all, much more deeper feedback for you.
Yeah, and I see there is zero tobacco use, but then there are some marijuana use in our schools. So that's.
If you have any more clarifying questions, just send them to Craig. So, okay. So next we have, I lost the page, but action item. Yeah.
Action item.
Action item. Yeah. Okay, so action item 9.1, the approval of the amended contract for the district superintendent. May I have a motion? May I have a motion?
I move.
Phyllis moves. May I have a second?
I second.
Kristen seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Should we mention a little bit what's different this time?
I think it's in the document.
It's already in the.
I know, but should we sunshine the improvement?
Do you like to? It's a
I don't
discussion.
see a need to because it's all there. It's been
It's all
posted
there.
on
You
the
just can
website.
read it.
So, and we just took a vote.
But we
Do you
made a
expect
motion.
people
We
to
made a
read,
motion.
read the entire contract?
Yes, the whole contract's in there.
Would you like to mention something?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Okay.
it's really, yeah, it's up for you. You should decide that.
Well, we made a motion, we have a second, but there is an opportunity for any further discussion. So if Liang wants to hear what are the changes, then I think we can have Stacy
Yeah,
comment on that.
Comment a little bit of what is different.
Or I can, who should?
Yeah.
I should,
Yeah.
or you should, yeah. So I think, sorry I was late today, I'm not prepared, but just off the top of my head, I didn't bring any notes, but the contract term is being extended a year. That's one thing, that's a change in the contract. And then how do I say that? In the you want to, does someone
the
else want to,
way-
me too? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just negotiate with the superintendent each year on any salary increase, but it's not automatic anymore, the quote "Me Too" clause where the superintendent gets the same raise as everybody else in the district. So
And also
And we remove the schedule.
we remove the salary.
yes, we remove
Yeah.
the salary schedule. So it's again, it's up to negotiation with the superintendent every year. And then we also removed, there was a clause that said in the past that if the rest of the district, if there were to be furlough days or something, if the rest of the district employees have to take a salary decrease, that the superintendent would not take it. And we removed that as well, that we reserve the right to, again, negotiate that with the superintendent. So,
I think it's significant to mention that the Me Too clause is taken off, so that there is less conflict of interest. The attorney think that's better because superintendent does represent us to negotiate with the employees.
Yeah.
And
did
it's
technically-
actually Craig proposed that, so.
right, which is
So
a good thing. I
yeah,
agree
he
that
proposed
he's
all
not.
these good changes.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do want to just technically, there is no Me Too clause.
That's
really.
why I didn't know how
That's
to
why
say
it's like Me Too, but it's really, it is legal the way it's written, but it basically implies that what others get, I would get, the superintendent, and that, so that's not technically a Me Too clause, but it kind of implies it. So I just wanted to make that point. Yeah. But thank you. I appreciate it.
So, okay, so we had a motion by Phyllis, a second by Kristen. Any further discussion? Liang, are you satisfied? Or?
Another thing I'd like to mention, because I didn't know that before the step schedule we are removing because it's not common for superintendent to have step schedule, and that's actually better for the district, as I learned that because when we have future superintendent, they don't have an expectation of how they should be paid. So that's actually also recommendation by Craig. So thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Yeah, so a new superintendent, if they were to come in hypothetically many years from now, they would negotiate.
many years.
They would negotiate their salary instead of looking at the steps that are there. They would negotiate their salary, and that was a good change proposed. So thank you. Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Is satisfied? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, great. Okay. So board and superintendent activity.
I just want to say thank you. This is my last evening meeting, as I understand. And so, and that's what the last evening meeting as a board member.
No, it's not, actually.
That's what Craig said.
When?
I think you have to be here on the 13th.
Yeah, on the 13th, we're going to be here.
I know, okay.
No, we don't
No.
have 13.
No. Officially, that Friday, December 7, is when a new board is officially on board. So I guess that leaves only December 6th.
Who didn't? That's
is that
not
right?
what we discussed
So
earlier.
that leaves
so-
only December 6th.
No, but
Yes.
that's not what you said earlier when you looked at the.
Oh, okay, I don't know. When I talked to Greg earlier, it was like, this is the last evening meeting, so I just wanted to say
Okay.
thank you to everybody. Maybe you can have a discussion later. Sorry.
I tried to clarify that and got a different answer, so.
Okay, but no, when I had the
Yeah.
I
discussion
think
with
so
him,
too.
Until the first
13th.
regular rescheduled, and I think.
Okay, so I think this is not a discussion item right
No.
now, so,
We can do it as part of the agenda setting.
Yeah.
Future agenda item.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I've actually been really consistent in saying that as of the first Friday in December, the new board will officially be the new board. They just are by law, and that just is what it is. We did hold the 27th of November as a potential special meeting, but we've removed that since then, so that does mean December 6th, advance, which is a regularly scheduled board meeting. And so the only point she's making is that
It's
this
the
is
last evening meeting. That's
Yes.
what I'm
of a
saying.
board meeting.
no, 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 I agree, that's what you're saying. I just, when I tried to clarify that, I thought there was a different response. But thank you for saying, so go ahead and continue. This is your last evening meeting. Yes, I'm happy, yes.
So I want to just, because it's the last evening meeting, I want to thank all the staff. I've had a wonderful time, and I was supposed to bring cupcakes. That's what my daughter said I needed to do, but I did not get to bake them. So maybe for the December 6th meeting, which is a during the day meeting, I will bring cupcakes or cookies. But I wanted just to say thank you. It's been a wonderful journey.
So I went to the Hsinchu City
Luncheon with
luncheon.
office.
Yeah, and all of us were there. Then it was great that we have the visitors again, and especially great because that's the city where I spent 6 years in undergraduate school and 2 years in graduate school. So it was nice to have people from that city. Yeah.
I also attended the Hsinchu luncheon, and it was very nice. It's a great partnership, another great partnership that we have.
I'm done too. So- Okay. Okay, so,
Well, I think we should wish Craig a happy journey to Japan.
oh, yes, we should.
Toyokawa coming up.
Yes, I'm very, very excited for that trip. Yeah, and I will do my best not to embarrass you all as your representatives in Toyokawa. Thank you.
Thank you for going.
Yeah. And for the future agenda items, I guess I have one less
Think
agenda
we-
that I didn't know about, but yeah.
So we brought up maybe we should discuss the role of board members in committees.
That's on the
already-
agenda
Yeah.
already for December 6th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you already report out from the first closed session? Okay. So I guess it's my last evening meeting that I will be closing for at 8:23. Good thing I showed up because I didn't know. So I'm adjourning this meeting.